Welcome into the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Got a really good show today, folks. I know a lot of you have asked me, Tim, well, we've got ghosts, we got aliens, where's our cryptids? I'll tell you what, today we're going to overserve you with that. We've got a great guest in today. An old friend is back, and he has got a great book out there. It takes place in the early 2000s. Our guest today, paranormal investigator Dave Spinks, is back with us. And he has a great book out there called Beyond Mothman, which talks about a lot of the investigative stuff that he did in Point Pleasant and other areas having to do with phenomena revolving around Mothman. There's some stuff having to do with Chupacabra and other cryptids that we'll talk about today. Not only just with Point Pleasant, but also with Virginia City, other areas. Boy, there's a lot we got to get to today, but Beyond Mothman is a great book. I just finished it this afternoon. I was enthralled throughout the entire thing, folks. I got to tell you, we've got a lot to talk about today. Let me tell you a little bit about Dave before we jump into today's program, folks. Dave has been investigating and researching the supernatural since 1986 due to several experiences he had as a young man. Since that time, he's conducted several hundred investigations in the U.S. as well as Europe. Dave served in the U.S. Air Force, and we thank him for that service for 8 years and went on to work as a federal law enforcement officer, retiring in 2011. During his paranormal investigations, Dave experienced many hair-raising and unnerving things, as one might imagine. Having investigated strange phenomena for over 30 years, he's built many friendships with some of the most well-known investigators in the field today. He's been seen on various television shows to include Expedition X, which is not the game show, by the way, that is on NBC right now. We have to clarify. Terror in the Woods, Paranormal 911, The Unexplained, In Search of Monsters, and These Woods Are Haunted, to name a few. He was also featured in the film Flatwoods Monster, A Legacy of Fear by Small Town Monsters. A great group, by the way, who has a new documentary coming out. They're going to be back on the program here in August. He has been a featured guest on hundreds of paranormal-themed radio shows, including this one. Dave is often a featured guest speaker at paranormal conferences around the country. He's also an author of numerous books on topics that include cryptids, hauntings, and ufology, and much, much more. And one of the authorities out there in the field. We welcome him back here to Darkness Radio. Dave Spinks, thank you so much for being back with us, my friend. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tim. It's always a pleasure, man. It's been a while.
It has been a while. And you know, we got to make this more frequent, my friend. I greatly appreciate you being on the program. So you've brought these experiences back forward into from the 2000s here. And I know Mothman books and cryptid books are few and far between, but what made you decide to bring it to the here and now?
Well, there's so much going on up in Point Pleasant. It's much more than just the Mothman. You know, there's been many things written about the Mothman in particular, but there's something else going on in Point Pleasant, man. It's one of those places. It's I like to call it our Skinwalker Ranch here on the East Coast, because you've got the whole gamut going on. You've got hauntings, you've got UFOs out the wazoo, you've got black magic rituals happening in and around the bunker area for many years. There's also giant Indian mounds there as well. It's called Point Pleasant for a reason, because it's actually on a point where two major rivers meet. And we all know and we all talk about, you know, the power of water and how it conducts paranormal activity. It's a conduit, right? So you've had several different wars in that area over many, many years. It's a hot spot, man, and there's so much going on there. There's cryptid sightings, there's UFOs, hauntings, like I said, and I spent just under 25 years investigating all of it. And that culminated in the book Beyond Mothman. You know, I don't only talk about Mothman, but that's a small part of that book. It's much, much more. And it goes into all those different things, Men in Black, you know, the sightings. And there's still weird stuff going on up there today. I mean, there's sightings of UFOs on a pretty regular basis. There's just a lot of high strangeness as many people use that word, you know, but it's true. It's definitely true. You know, I've interviewed numerous locals there over the years, and some of those stories are in the books. We've got creature sightings of a lizard man from, there's a story in there I was at the Mothman conference one year, and this old man comes up to my table. And he goes, "Hey, if you got a few minutes, Dave, I'd really like to tell you a story." And he was one of the tugboat captains that pushes coal up and down the river. And he had this profound sighting of a lizard man type creature that jumped up on his barge and jumped off. And if you do any kind of research all along the Ohio River, there's countless sightings of this thing going back for many decades. So, I had to delve into that a little bit because it's just one of those crazy stories. But it's not just one guy telling it. There's numerous people. This goes back to like the 40s and the 30s and the 50s. And so, did a little research and got more stories and, put that in the book as well. So it's one of those areas, and it seems so prevalent in a lot of these cases, whether it's UFOs, hauntings, or even cryptids, they have some sort of Native American tie, to these giant bones that were found buried in these ancient Native American mounds. So what's really going on here? Is it some sort of, we kind of discussed it before the show a little bit, and we'll segue into that whenever you're ready. But, is there something else going on here? What is really going on here?
Right. So, I was reading that story about the lizard man, and as I'm reading it, this captain is talking about he's got what was it? Two other crew members. One of the crew members is just hanging out down in the galley. The other one is actually doing some work, for lack of a better term. And he sees this thing come up on the deck or the bridge, and then go back down. And he's trying to. He doesn't know whether to avoid it, keep pace with it, whatever it is. But he has to see this thing for himself.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know whether his eyes are deceiving him. But I have to ask you this, David. I know you're trying to take a skeptical look at it as well before you dismiss it, or whether you believe it one way or the other. In your mind, when you see something that big that could be a man, what other species could there be in that area of Ohio that might be potentially that big, that's in fresh water, that could be mistaken for something like that?
Nothing really, if you think about it. I mean, this guy he felt so genuine, and I get this all the time. People want to come up and share their stories that they've been holding in for 30 plus years or most of their life because they don't want to be ridiculed and people think they're crazy. This guy was a decorated ship captain, and stuff, and he had a reputation, and he was very well respected in his field. He did that job for like 50 years. You know what I mean? Yeah. So somebody like that, and a lot of the older folks, they did not want to share these stories, but it happened. Especially when I had my store open, it was almost weekly, if not sometimes daily. Some older folks would come in, and there wouldn't be no one else in the store, and they say, "Hey, I want to share a story with you, and I don't feel comfortable sharing it anywhere else, but I feel like I can share it with you because it's what you do." Mm-hmm. And they would tell me a Bigfoot sighting, or they tell me a UFO sighting, and I said, "Well, why'd you wait so long to tell anybody?" Because, well, I tried to tell my family about it, but they thought I was crazy, So, you run into that all the time doing what I do. And I'm sure you've gotten plenty of stories that being a podcast host and radio show host. Yep. People are very reluctant to share those type of encounters, because they will be ridiculed and they have something to lose. And those are the stories I really like. I like to hear it from law enforcement and professionals because when they come out, they're telling you they definitely genuinely had some sort of experience. Now, what they saw, we'll never know because we weren't there unless they have some kind of hard proof, like a picture, video, whatever. But, it's just nature of the game. I love hearing those stories. I believe the man. Why else would he come after all these? It was on his chest. He had to get it off his chest. And that weighs on people, believe it or not. There's a whole field out there of people that are experiencers that they're being treated for an experience like this because it traumatized them in some way, because it went against everything they've ever been told, everything they've been, brainwashed not to believe, because it's the unexplained, it's the weird, it's the things we're told that don't exist. But let me tell you something. There's some sort of truth to all of this stuff. Every story has at least a little bit of truth. Whether he saw a giant 6 foot tall lizard man, we'll never know. He truly believed he did. So who's to say he didn't? Because we weren't there. So, if I believe the guy's genuine, the person who shares a story like that with me, I'm gonna write about it, and I'm gonna, take a skeptical look at it. But hey, I can't tell the guy he didn't have that experience because I wasn't there. And if I really believe that he's genuine in what he's telling me, and I believe this man was, I'm gonna write about it, put it in my books because it's an encounter. It's something that really traumatized this man and affected his entire life. Because that's what got me into this. I had an experience that changed my life, and I think it's important for people to share their stories, and I encourage them to.
You attend the Mothman Festival on
Every year, yeah.
every year. And as you attend the Mothman Festival, are you finding that people that attend this festival are seeing Mothman still on a yearly basis? Or is this a phenomenon that is buried in the past?
Every now and then you'll have a new encounter or a sighting, but not as it was back in the 60s when the whole wave of sightings happened. But there are, every once in a while you'll see a new encounter, and a lot of times it's in the news. I mean, there's one a few years back that they had pictures of this thing flying in the air. It's pretty crazy. Now, whether that was hoax or not, we'll never know. But, it looked pretty compelling to me, and it was all over the news. And I put some of that in the book too. People can go on there and see that. But I mean, hey, it is what it is. We unfortunately, with AI these days and stuff, it's going to become harder and harder for investigators to debunk anything because this stuff looks so real. It's unreal, man. And it's unfortunate that people are using it nefariously it kind of messes what we do up, in a way. And everybody's looking for that fame and that buck, the almighty dollar, and they're willing to, fake things to get attention, which is so unfortunate to the field, for all of us that do this stuff. But you're going to have that. And I've talked to a lot of people who are so frustrated with it. They're like, I'm not, I'm going to give up doing this. I'm like, no, don't do that because, you can't let that kind of stuff stop you. From doing what you enjoy and what your passion is. But there's always going to be people like that. Heck, even before AI and all this fancy technology we had, there was people faking, they shot a Bigfoot dead and were making up carcasses that were and trying to pass it off as a Bigfoot. You're going to have that kind of stuff no matter what you do and no matter what time period you're in. So it's unfortunate. Yeah, it sucks. And there's a lot of people that hoax stuff. But, I don't do that. I mean, I've turned down a couple of chances for my own TV show because I refuse to fake anything. Mm-hmm. I will never sell out, and people can take what I say to the bank because that's who I am. I'll never fake anything, and I don't need fame or fortune to do what I do because I do this because I love it and I have a passion for it.
Reason I ask is this, Dave. I know you keep a pretty close eye on the internet and in different stories that come out on the internet. You've probably seen a lot of the more recent stories in the last 6 months of occasionally you'll see a story where someone caught a picture of Bigfoot. And there have been some recent ones in the last month or two where there's a picture of Bigfoot that's plain as day and you don't know whether you can believe it or not. I know there was one, I think within the last 3 or 4 weeks. There was a picture of Bigfoot caught in the wild, and boy, is it clear as day, and just standing out in the open.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like the catch-22, right? So now with AI, like I said, it's so hard to decipher, is this AI? So now we're going to be forced to put these pictures or videos through a program that could tell somehow if the pixels are manipulated or if it's faked, But yeah, I think there's been evidence captured already in the past that's probably something real. But there's so many people out there that are jockeying to be the first person to capture, since the Patterson-Gimlin film, to have that magic piece of evidence that other people, oh, no, it's fake. So they're debunking their evidence that could be real when it, and saying it's fake when it's actually something actually in a photograph or a video. So I think some real evidence over the years has been captured. But all the other people that are trying to be the man have said, no, it's fake. And then people say, oh, it's fake. And then they just leave it alone instead of further analyzing it, and that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. So, when you capture something of that magnitude that could be real, I mean, you should do your be due diligence and have it sent to experts, have them verify. There's a whole process that should take place before you ever come out publicly with it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
Sure.
As a solid investigator, that's what you need to do. You need to have video and photo experts say, no, this is a 100% genuine picture. This is the kind of camera or cell phone it was taken on. We've analyzed it and it's real. There's no manipulation going on whatsoever. So, you should do your due diligence as an investigator to make sure you take those proper steps before you ever release anything to the public. Because there's some real horse dookie being put out there on the internet. People are saying there's vampires and there's 15-foot tall werewolves and they went into a I mean, okay, that's a story, dude. Until you have some proof, why are you coming out? I mean, in the old days, you could tell a story, an experience like that because there was no way to capture the proof of what you experienced. But nowadays, everybody's got a cell phone. Show me something. Give me something. You're just, until that, it's just a story, man.
Why do you suppose? I mean, you do see the occasional, photos of Bigfoot. You do see the people taking the occasional AI shots of these different cryptids. Mm-hmm. You don't see that much on Mothman. Why do you suppose people don't take the occasional shots of Mothman and try and throw them up and say, hey, I saw Mothman?
Well, there hasn't, the thing with Mothman, it's weird because you'll have these like waves of Mothman. You had the supposed Chicago wave, which I don't put 2 cents into, to be honest with you. I believe there was one possibly legit sighting of something, but then all these other jokesters came out, and then some certain people tried to come out and claim that as they were the authoritative host about, or I wrote a book about it, well, when they were legitimately approached by another investigator to follow up on their claims of certain police reports that were supposedly filed, there was no such reports. So again, another hoaxing of things, because they wanted to be the next John Keel or whoever, you know what I mean? And that's unfortunate, because if you're not doing this correct way and you're doing it because you want to be likened to a John Keel or somebody of that nature, I mean, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You're just a jokester, hoaxer, fraudster, man.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, let's get real here. Yeah, this is all fascinating stuff. It's some of man's greatest unanswered questions. That's why I do this. I had my own experiences as a young man that really forged my life into the world of the strange and the unexplained. And, I'm still looking for answers. You'll never, ever hear me say, I know for a fact that's what that was. I know for a fact that I'm communicating with a ghost, because I don't know what I'm communicating with something. Right. I'm getting responses from something. How do you explain that? I can't.
Yeah.
I know what I saw when a kid was it was a living, breathing creature. It was moving interacting with the environment, moving the trees, shaking the trees, making these horrendous loud scream sounds that terrified me for years. But I didn't even know like what a Bigfoot was back in those days. I found out later that other people were seeing this thing all over the world when I started doing my own research, as a kid in the local libraries without the help of the internet and all that fun stuff. But I was like, okay, all right, I know I saw this thing. Is it some sort of species of ape? I don't know. Is it a ghost of a long dead extinct ape species that can interact with the environment just like a spirit, So if you have to approach it in that manner, you can't just say, well, I know that's what that is 100%, because you really don't. You can't prove it.
Yeah.
You have all these so-called experts out there. There is no experts in any of this stuff, because, what defines an expert? All there is experience levels of investigative levels, and I carried that over from my law enforcement background too. So, you can interview all the people you want. It's just fascinating stuff. It's, are we alone in the universe? Do unknown creatures walk among us? Yes, I believe that 100%. They find new species on this planet almost daily. The Kraken legend, we thought it was a legend, but was it 2015? Japanese fishermen caught a 65-foot long giant squid. That's the Kraken, man. I mean, that's what these old ancient sea mariners were seeing in the ocean. Yes. So, you have to look at it from that standpoint, in my humble opinion. You can't just say, well, I know that was a Bigfoot and I saw it. Well, You might have saw a Bigfoot. Do you know for 100% what a Bigfoot even is? No, we don't. Is it interdimensional? Is it, like I said, is it a ghost? Is it a living, undocumented species of some sort of ape or hominid? We don't know.
Very
We don't
true.
know.
Very true.
All we have is opinions.
Let me do a little skeptic separating here for a moment.
Sure.
When it comes back, I want to bring it back to Mothman here for a moment, and talk a little bit specifically about Point Pleasant, and talk about how they tried to separate things in 1967 and say, "Oh, you're not seeing Mothman here. What you're seeing is this." One of the common things that they tried to tell people, well, the reason why you're not seeing Mothman here is that they had developed these little flying machines, these wings that they would strap on to military at the time, and said, well,
So
you're not seeing
so
that.
like here in West Virginia, a lot of people don't really know this, but we have a special forces unit, Delta Force, operates here in West Virginia. They have a base here. And back in those days, we know with the Cold War, and they were developing all kinds of, I mean, they were developing jetpacks and these winged suits, for parachuting. They were developing all that stuff during this time. It was in the 60s. Cold War was in full swing. It's us against the Russians, us against communism. So they were doing anything and everything they could to, go in to beat the Russians in technology, because that's where it was at. Those who have the best technology control the world, or can defend themselves from anything. So we know, upon research, a little bit of research, anyone can find out on the internet, hey, yeah, they were developing these things. We know Wright Pat is just it's not far from Point Pleasant, a couple hours by drive, so it's not too far fetched to say, well, maybe they were testing these wingsuits during that time, and that's what people were seeing flying in the air. But we also know that there was all kinds of unexplained lights in the sky. So much, it was so prevalent that people would literally come home from work, eat dinner with their families, and go out to the bunker area and watch the crazy lights in the sky. So there was something going on. There's a UFO wave, and when I say UFO, I'm not saying, okay, there were spaceships with little green aliens. It's an unidentified flying object. I hate how they want to change it's UAP now,
Yeah.
leave it alone. You don't need to change. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
But, UFO explains it perfectly. There's strange lights in the sky, strange craft in the sky. Yes. Was it top secret aircraft from the government? Maybe. We don't know. But people were definitely seeing something. It was documented in thousands of newspapers. But going back to the wingsuit, we know they were testing these type of things way back in the 60s. And now they're an everyday thing. These guys are jumping off rock cliffs with them, and they're able to sail miles with this thing, So is that a tactical advantage? Yes, big time. If you can jump out of an airplane and sail 300 miles to your target without being detected, that's a huge advantage in military hardware and weaponry and surprise. So those things were being developed. Could it have been that? Possibly. I want to show people, hey, think outside the box. That's why I talk about it in the book.
Right.
We know that supposedly the Roswell crash, they took all the materials to Wright Pat, right? So right up the road from Point Pleasant. We also know when I was filming Unexplained, or not Unexplained, Expedition X, I uncovered a map in the county courthouse of the bunker area. If you ever watch that episode, you'll see we touch on it a little bit. There was a secret within a secret in the bunker area. There's a totally separate area inside the bunker area, which was super top secret because they were developed. We had weapons. There's talk and rumor of they were developing parts of the atomic bombs, the trigger mechanisms over there in Point Pleasant, right? So within that secret, it labels out and it shows a whole area in the dead center of the bunker area that was labeled Department of the Army. All the other stuff was government contracted munitions and what, they were building weapons and bombs for the war effort during World War II. But in the dead center, there's a whole different section that says that was labeled Department of the Army, and it was sectioned off on the map. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing to discover something like that. And say, oh yeah, there's most likely something else going on in there too,
Yeah.
which we know that's a typical situation with the military.
Yep.
When they would bust the workers out there, all the bus windows were blacked out. They knew where they were going from distance wise, but they didn't know really where they were going, because when they got on the bus, it was blacked out. They knew they drove around for a certain amount of time. Then they were let off in a wooded area out in this massive complex. And, you couldn't even get in that area because it's guard, the military had it sectioned off. So they knew they were close by their homes, but they didn't know exactly where they were. So it was pretty interesting.
That's crazy.
So that's the level of secrecy that was going on during that time, because, you had to keep that secret.
That's absolutely nuts. I mean, to think that, you, I mean, just the to be working for them is one thing, but to know that you're going to work every day, not knowing where you're going to work, not knowing.
Not exactly. Yeah. You knew you were close by your house, maybe 10 miles away. But you didn't exactly know where you were. Right. It was kind of spooky. Being
kind of discombobulated, but knowing that, and not knowing if what you're doing is necessarily a nefarious means or whether what you're doing is for the good of the country or you just have to take it on faith that what you're doing is for good, Yeah.
And I had I've had so many crazy experiences up there just with ghost boxes and stuff. And I was filming In Search of Monsters, and that whole show had to do with Point Pleasant and the bunkers and Mothman too, but it was a different take, because this couple had gone there and they were just, they were interested in the paranormal, and they were talking to some of the locals in the shops, and they said, well, how do you do an EVP session? They give them a recorder and they go out there and they capture something very dark and negative, saying, it wants to kill them and this and that. And so they go home. Next thing you know, all this activity is going on in their house for years. They were being scratched, slapped, hit, all this crazy stuff. So they brought me on to go out and film an episode with them when we go back to the same exact bunker that they captured the EVP in. And I'm using a ghost box for the show just to see if we can get anything. And it goes crazy in this bunker. That the crew had these battery operated lights right all around the perimeter inside one of the igloos. And they didn't even show a lot of this stuff on the episode, which blew my mind, which that's TV for you. They suck sometimes. But all of a sudden the lights started just going off, turning off by themselves, and they were fully charged. And we're getting responses. I said, are you the Mothman? Do you want to hurt Jeff and Crystal? And I said, what do you want from them? It said blood. And I mean, it was straight up responses. And basically, when you're in a bunker, you're in a giant Faraday cage, okay? This thing is a 3-foot thick concrete igloo, and you can't get any radio signals in there at all. So there was no bleed over, and it's given just exact, just following up with crazy responses. And that's all in the book too. It's pretty compelling.
Yeah.
And then I took a K2 meter around Crystal, the woman, and it was lighting up like a Christmas tree when it was saying all this stuff. And she freaked out and ran outside, and she felt, she was just totally just messed up from it. And then all of a sudden, right behind us, the sound person comes running out of there, and they're like, I'm not going back in there. And they were hearing all this crazy stuff come across their very sensitive audio equipment. So it was pretty intense, and they didn't show a lot of it, which was unfortunate, but some stuff they did show was pretty compelling. So, it's one of those things, how do you explain that? You can't, and I really feel that they were something followed them home and was attached to them from some sort of practice that had gone on there. And I write about that in the book too. I talk about the different satanic things that have been witnessed out there. People in dark hooded figures, with a fire, chanting, doing all this black magic stuff, and a lot of that, all that's in the book. But it's I believe there's something nefarious going on in that whole area. Always has been, probably always will be. Even if you go to like the the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio. The regular natives from our time, like the more modern, they don't like that area. They say it's bad, that those people were bad, and they're talking about the giants. So if you read about anything in the Bible, it talks about the Nephilim, right? And the Nephilim were these giant offspring of human women and the fallen angels, and they were it says it right in there, disgusting, vile creatures that would eat people. And maybe that's linked to that. You have to you got to think about these things. And I mean, some of these skeletons they found were 15, 18 feet tall. So that's a normal size of 6 foot man coming up to their kneecap.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah.
And they could easily grab you and eat you. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I did, it's in the book too about the experience I had with Weatherly when we went to Lovelock Cave, and it ties into the giants and it ties into the Men in Black, and a lot of this stuff ties in together. So, it's really spooky but fascinating stuff.
I want to get to Men in Black here, and I want to talk a little bit about Men in Black being tied to Mothman in that area, and the phenomena of the two being tied together, because it seems to me that, the Men in Black phenomena to me is an odd one. It's a weird one. And it seems like it's kind of a hit or miss deal. It seems like whether you are too tied to the UFO phenomena, whether you're too tied to the Mothman phenomena, whether you're too tied to something a little controversial, you're either done away with or you're threatened with it. I know we've had L.A. Marzulli on this program, and he's been directly threatened by Men in Black, and it's unnerving to hear about. I know with L.A. he's stated on this program that they said to him that we could make your daughter go away. You could go to you drive a car with a computer in it. We could make your computer fail. We could. You could blow a tire at any time. You could, those type of threats. You point out in the book that I forget the name of the broadcaster with Mutual Broadcasting who
Bill Snyder.
Yeah, died of what could have been from a heart attack gun. And it's the fact that these Men in Black are very odd, right? They have this very odd look to them. Although they're very sharp dressed, they have a very odd sheen to them. They behave very oddly, like they may not be of this world. Maybe they're not.
Yep.
But they come across as they put off a very odd vibe. They don't seem very human. Is that fair to say, Dave?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I truly believe that me and Weatherly had an encounter with real Men in Black, and that we were followed, we were chased. It was crazy. If you read it in the book, I don't want to tell too much because I want people to read about the experience, because it was pretty unnerving. I mean, to the point where we were driving 80 miles an hour trying to get away out in the middle of the desert, and I'm talking miles out, and there was no traffic. I mean, we're on a dirt road out to Lovelock. It's 20 miles through the desert to get out there. And all of a sudden, there's no crossroads that intersect except for when you first get off the hard road, when I talk about it in the book. And then you get on this dirt road. There's no other crossroads or anything. And all of a sudden, this car appears behind us out of nowhere. And it had no license plate on it or anything. And like I said, and this guy was, I know counter surveillance techniques. I mean, I was taught that in the military. I know it. This guy was counter surveilling us. And then when you read about the story in the book, you'll see what happens even more. We were chased when we got back on the hard road by a blacked out Crown Vic, and it was blacked out to the front windshield was even blacked out, and it had no license plate on it. And they swung around there when we passed it, because I looked like this. He was driving, and I looked, and there was no license plate on this thing, and it was totally blacked out, which is, number one, is illegal. You can't have blackout on your windshield and your side driver's windows. And this thing was totally blacked out, no license, and it chased us to the point where he gunned it. We were doing 90 miles an hour going down the interstate, and they didn't pursue us after that. But I think that was a message. Hey, stop what you're doing. And there's been other times I've been on the phone talking to people about certain cases and things we've experienced, and the phone goes dead. and doesn't want to start back up. I mean, crazy stuff. And computer, I was writing a story one time. My computer just shut off and everything went dead on it. And the computer never did work again. So it's weird stuff. I can't say for sure, hey, it's the Men in Black doing this to me, but it's awful strange when you're typing about a particular subject, writing about it, or you're talking on the phone. And there's even been times where I was doing some experiments with a psychic on Facebook. And when we started getting certain responses, the whole Facebook feed went dead.
Really?
I mean, there's been some crazy stuff going on throughout the years with me and other people I've worked with, So what is it? I can't say for sure, but it's really awfully strange. I've never been outright threatened, but that one time at Lovelock Cave, something really weird went down.
So I have to ask this question.
We had been out to the Paiute Reservation, talking to the chief there and everything during that trip. So it was very bizarre how it all went down.
So I have to ask this question, Dave, because, okay, so I've been doing this show now. It'll be 20 years in 2006, okay? And I've talked about every subject under the sun. And I think I've tried to expose about every secret that there is out there in the paranormal. Never once have I been approached by a Men in Black. Not that I'm asking for it. I'm not asking for one of these guys to show up on my front doorstep, nor am I asking to be threatened. But am I not asking the right questions, or
I don't know. I mean, I didn't want that to happen. It just happened. You know what I mean? And I was like, wow, that was. I mean, we were a little bit shaken up over that. I mean, if you can even talk, I'm sure you'll talk to him at some point, but he'll tell you about it. It was very unnerving and bizarre. I mean, to the point where we both felt danger. I mean, he's like, I'm like, punch it, let's get the hell out of here. This guy spun around and followed us out to the highway.
That's crazy. I guess the question I'm asking is, what button do you feel you pushed in order to get them?
We don't know. That's the thing. We couldn't figure it out. We were like, okay, we did this, and this. Did they not like us? Maybe we were close to something that we didn't really even realize, by talking to the Paiute elder. And he was telling us all these stories about out at Pyramid Lake and everything. And that's when we said, oh man, we're driving after that. And we're like, hey, Lovelock Cave. Oh, let's go. It wasn't even planned. So maybe we interrupted something. I don't know. It was just the most, and let me tell you, there was nobody out there. It was just us and this weird looking little Asian guy. And I talk about it in the book. And he had a hat on, a flannel shirt. Mind you, it's 120 degrees out in the desert out there.
Yeah.
And we were burning up wearing shorts and stuff. It was super hot. This guy's wearing a flannel shirt, pants, a hat. He looked all pasty. He didn't look right. He kept his head down. He never looked us square in the eye. And if you read the story, I mean, you read it. You read it, so But folks, listen, read the story. It was not normal at all, period. And this guy was doing surveillance techniques on us. And then he was acting like he was using a cell phone, but then he was fumbling with it so awkwardly that it looked like to us he never had held a cell phone in his hand before and didn't know how to use it.
Yeah.
So it was just like you hear these stories. These guys are awkward. These are. I was like, dude, did we just have an encounter with a man in black? I mean, what are we dealing with here? And having the blacked out Crown Vic follow us like it did. I mean, that just. Was this little Asian dude an alien and these were government men in black that were following us because we interrupted something? We don't know. I mean, what do you do in that situation? You're just racking your brain trying to figure out what just happened. And we still don't know what happened. But I shared the story in the book because I thought it was interesting and compelling and pretty bizarre, to say the least. In
your mind and in your experience, is there a difference? Is there a Men in Black organization that works for the government, and is there an interstellar Men in Black? Are there two different organizations, or are they the same?
That's what the theories are, right? Some people say they're government agents. Some people say they're aliens. Some people say they're aliens that work for the government or are part of the government. So I don't know, man. I couldn't even begin to answer that because I just don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I do know because I don't. But when you research and you see all these other people's with these strange accounts, I mean, they kind of line up and they match up. It's like, wow, dude. why, what did we do to garner that type of attention?
Yeah.
We're just out there exploring and trying to, see what, be in a location that we heard this Paiute elder tell us their whole history, where they trapped these race of giants in the cave and burned them out and killed them all because they were raiding their camps and eating their people. These giant red-haired giants, that's a fascinating story to me. And I wanted to go to the location where it all took place. And that's what we did. And, just being there was really, really cool until all this weird stuff went down at the same time. And then, I don't know. Were they following us, watching us? We were hitting a lot of different stuff in those years. I think we investigated on a regular basis for 7.5, 8 years together, all over the country, different monolithic sites, different famous sites, Serpent Mound and all these different things that have a lot of high weirdness and strangeness with them, and I don't know, maybe they didn't like that for some reason,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's what happened, and I wrote about it in the book.
I tell you what, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the possibility, one, that Mothman isn't necessarily, well, let's just put it this way. Mothman is more than maybe just a extra dimensional creature, that maybe it's something more. Maybe it's magically tied. We'll talk about that, magically or elsewise.
Okay.
I want to talk about a ghost experience in Mason County. We'll talk about that as well. And I want to talk about another person that you work with, Serenity Jenny. We'll talk about one of the psychics you work with and
Yes.
some of the investigations you've done with Serenity Jenny. So, and on the other side of the break, Dave also has taken some paranormal poetry, and he's taken and put it into music. And this music is phenomenal, folks. So we're going to play a couple of examples of that as well. And Dave's also crafted a new theme for Darkness Radio. We'll play it at the end of the program. So much more to come, folks. Dave Spinks is with us. The book is Beyond Mothman. It is incredible, folks, and I encourage you to get a copy of it. We have a link in the description of this program. Go get it during the break. We come back with Dave. We'll talk about whether Mothman is more than just an extra dimensional creature and much more. Dave Spinks is with us. And on the other side of the break, more about Mothman and other creatures. And we'll also talk about Serenity Jenny and much more. Next, right here on the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. My guest is paranormal investigator and author Dave Spinks. The name of the book is Beyond Mothman. We have a link in the description of this program so you can pick it up and get your copy. It's a great book, folks. Lots of investigative, lots of investigations, lots of experiences that not only Dave, but Dave Weatherly and Serenity Jenny had around the Point Pleasant area and other areas around the early 2000s. Dave, I want to talk about, first of all, I want to talk about one of the other investigators that I just mentioned, Serenity Jenny, a psychic that you brought into quite a few of your investigations. I want to talk about working with a medium in your investigations, because I know it was Hans Holzer who said you should always use a good trance medium when you're working in an investigation. Mm-hmm. Talk to me a little bit about bringing Serenity Jenny into your investigations and what Serenity Jenny does as far as your investigations and how she enhances your investigations.
Okay. I met Serenity at a conference I was speaking at in here in West Virginia. And, doing what I do for so many years, I've met a lot of charlatan psychics, claiming to be something they're not. And, to be fair to her, I put her through the ringer before I ever decided to use her. And I mean, she did some amazing, amazing things. Like she actually had me, like we started talking and she wanted me to come to validate her stuff with how I do things. And I thought that was an interesting take because normally they're psychics telling me I can do this and I can do that. And I'm like, yeah, well, show me, give me a reading. Get a reading, they didn't hit on anything. And I'm like, no, you're not who you say you are. So with her, it was kind of the opposite. And she's like, I always, being a psychic and claiming to be a psychic, you get people attacking you all the time, which is, they attack us too.
Mhm.
And I said, okay, well, what would you like me to do? And she's like, well, and we discussed it. I said, why don't we do this? We'll go to one of your cases, because she gets cases all the time, helping, she clears houses. She's also a spiritualist minister. She does exorcisms and the whole 9 yards. And I go, next time you get a case, I'll come. And why don't we go in separately? And I'll have a film guy there with you to film everything you're saying, okay? And then when you come out, I won't hear any of that. I won't know what you got. Then I'll go in, I'll do my thing and see what kind of evidence I can pick up with my equipment and everything. Then we'll come together after both of those, and then we'll compare notes, right? So we started doing that, and a lot of stuff was matching up, what she was picking up. And I was like, oh, this is pretty amazing, So it's kind of like a two-way street. Like she can validate me, I can validate her in different aspects. And I've seen this lady do some amazing things. We went on a case that she had. I don't want to say names because it's a very personal case, and plus she's a counselor too. She has a master's degree. She's a very smart woman, and she's like 160 IQ, man. I mean, she's way up there. So, she had a case where a young boy had committed suicide, but we found out because she was treating him. Her mom brought the boy in for counseling and stuff because they were having all this paranormal type activity going on in their house. Then several months later, this kid had no suicidal ideations, wasn't talking like that or anything. Then he up and killed himself. And she had a gun in it. The mom had a gun in the house. The gun was kept separate with no bullets, and he found one bullet in the house and shot himself.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm like, okay, something's not right here. That doesn't make any sense. She agreed. We went to the house that it happened in after it happened, and did that process that I told you about.
Mm-hmm.
And she went in, did her thing. I did my thing. Come out, a lot of it matched up. And I'm like, wow. And she did a reading with the mom too. I wasn't in the room. I was totally somewhere else. And I had my film guy, who's not a paranormal guy at all, filming them talk. And all this stuff matched up at the end, which is phenomenal. So then we did another case, same situation. Young boy had been being molested by his middle school teacher, who was a woman, who was married with kids since he was in middle school all the way through high school. Well, she was abusing him. But this house this kid lived in was having all type of paranormal activity. They were renting it. It was a cabin. Long story short, I try to make it as short as possible. But this kid had killed himself. And he did it at his grandpa's house, which was 20 miles away. He hung himself. But we found out this house was having all this paranormal activity, another same type of situation, and it's in the same general area, right? So we're like, wait a minute, there's something going on here possibly. So we go in and do our thing. And we were downstairs where his room was, but we didn't know where his room was for sure. But we figured, she said, this feels like his room. And we were down there in the ghost box, and I had the SLS camera going at the same time, and the ghost box saying, it's in here. It's in here. Keep looking. We're like, he's trying to tell, somebody's telling us something's in here. And then all of a sudden on the SLS camera by the closet, a stick figure appears, and it's like waving, going crazy. And I'm like, what the frick? And it got so intense. I said, okay, that's it. Turn everything off. We're going to turn the lights on. We're searching this room from top to bottom. I mean, and there was a cabin, and down in the basement area, it was like a game room down there, ping pong table, and they had bar stools and everything, and his room was down there. Mm-hmm. Great place for a teenage kid, mm-hmm. And had a bathroom and everything down there. So we searched this room from top to bottom, and the ceiling was not finished yet. It still had the open rafters, and you could put your hand down inside the cinder box and feel around. So I'm searching this the best I know how, and I'm a pretty good searcher being in law enforcement, searching inmate cells and the whole nine yards. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna get bit by a spider, putting my hand down, and I'm doing all this. I don't find nothing. And Jenny Serenity, she said, I gotta use the potty. We had 5 people with us, some of her people that are metaphysical people and stuff. And so she didn't want no one to hear her going in the potty downstairs, so she went upstairs, right? So we keep searching, we find nothing. I mean, we're pulling the carpet up, looking under the carpet for anything, something that's hidden, right? And I watched this happen in slow motion. It blew me away, blew me away. I watched her come back down the stairs, and we're kind of just standing there. We didn't find anything, We found a few things, like we found a pocket knife and some other little stuff, but it was in the bathroom, like put in the cabinet. She walks down, and 2 or 3 people say stuff to her, and she doesn't even acknowledge them. It's almost like she's in this trance, right? And I watch her go pick up one of the high back bar stools there, and she goes into the closet, and she climbs up on there. I'm like, what are you doing? She didn't even acknowledge me. She was like zoned in, and she starts reaching around up in this closet, and she goes, oh, and she pulls out this little notepad, and she goes, I can't do it. You look at it. She throws it to me, and I catch it. It's a little notepad. And it says on the front to something to the extent of, to whoever finds this or whatever. So I start flipping through this thing, and I'm like, oh my God, it's this kid's little diary. And I'm flipping through this, and it's got his name, it's got a cell phone number in it, and he's just a teenage boy writing stuff.
Gee.
And he's talking in kind of like this secret code where he's alluding to something happening to him, which was his teacher, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God. And I go, that's it, everybody upstairs. And I go up there and I read through this whole thing, and everybody's crying. This is crazy, right? And I said, Jen, what happened? What transpired for you to go down there and find this? We've never been in this house before. We don't know anything about it. All we know is the facts of the case, right? And she goes, I was on the toilet, and she goes, all of a sudden, this young man's voice comes in my head and says, you effing missed it. You missed it. Go, it's right here. Put your hand in there, and it's behind some wires. And she found it. It was down in the wall, tucked behind some electrical wires, just hanging in there.
Oh, wow.
And she goes, he was screaming in my head saying, you effing missed it. It's in the closet, telling her everything. And she was in this trance. And right, so I read through this. I'm like, we got to contact his mom. Mm-hmm. He wants her to have this. And so I get cold bumps every time I talk about it, because it blew me away. I was like, I knew then, without a shadow of a doubt, she's the real deal, 100%,
Wow.
And I mean, we were crying. This is hardcore stuff. This is a young teenage boy who killed himself because he's being abused. So we contact her friend, which owned the house that they were renting when this all transpired. And we said, do you still have her number, her contact info? And she goes, yeah, I think I got it. And we told them about it, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And so anyway, we contact the mom, say, hey, we got something here that you need to have, and we need you to verify if this is in fact your son's. And she came over with her new husband. And of course, when they come in the house, I got gear everywhere, cameras, and they're like, what the fuck? They're freaking out. What is this? And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. This is who I am. This is this is what we do.
Yep.
All we need to know, we think he wants you to have this. If it is in fact his, can you please verify it? She starts reading it, and then you see the tears coming out. It's his old cell phone number. It's his writing. It's all his stuff. And we're like, well, we want you to have this. He wanted you to have this, right? And then there's more to the story, but sure, we'll save that for later on a different thing, because there's a lot to this. But anyway, she verified it without a doubt, 100% it was his, and it alluded to stuff. And did you know the woman that did this to him was never prosecuted or anything?
You're serious?
Yeah, and they have all this proof and everything. There's emails, and I mean,
even though there's evidence from the person who was the victim.
Yep.
Written corroborated evidence. There's never,
and there's other stuff too that they never did anything to her.
Really?
Yeah. So, but going back to Jenny, that's when I knew without a shadow of a doubt, she's the real deal. And I've seen her do many, many amazing things since then too. So she's the real deal. And going back to our discussion about Point Pleasant, I have taken her to Point Pleasant numerous times now. She's in the book too. We share some of what she picked up there in the bunkers and where the site of the bridge fell were 46 people. She did an amazing thing there. It's in the book. She'd never been there, doesn't know the history of any of that because that's not her forte. She is a counselor and a psychic medium, and she uses those to treat people, right? So she doesn't do what we do. She doesn't do the paranormal, so to speak. But now, she does cases where she clears houses, but she doesn't know about Mothman and cryptids and the whole 9 yards like that. So, after having known her, of course, she's my fiance now, but I had taken her out there, and she actually got a full name of one of the victims. She just talked out this name, and when you go back and do the records of all the people that died, there it is. She said he's cold and he's this and that, and he's saying he needs, and she does what she does and clears the space for any trapped souls and everything like that. But yeah, she's done some pretty amazing things with me. I've seen her do it. So her story's in there and what she picked up and what she gathered from the site. And there's more stuff too as well that she's done up there with me.
There's and the story you're talking about is about Bunker X, and it brings up the question. I think we can transition to this topic safely. And that is, are we dealing with something when it comes to Mothman that's maybe a little bit outside of the realm of just a physical cryptid or a creature, if you will? Is this something that might be magical? Is it something that's so outside the realm of a creature?
Yeah, taking her in there, of course, I wanted her take on what she picked up and what she was gathering as a psychic. We also saw black salt on the ground, in the bunker where it was older, but you could still see the circle and ritualistic magic had been performing there. She felt that definite black magic spells, conjuring type spells were used there. And when we were there at that time, which was only a couple of years ago when I took her up there and we did that, she felt that it was fairly recent that some of those things had been conducted in that particular bunker. And she read that, she felt there's lots of black magic type rituals that have been conducted in and around that whole area of the bunkers for many years. And having interviewed numerous witnesses from the locals, that's in the book as well. They said, yes, in fact, that has been going on for many years up there. Numerous people had seen people in black robes out in the woods conducting some type of ceremony. They didn't know exactly what. There's been dead animals found there, sacrificial type things and everything else. So maybe there's a correlation to what we know as the Pazuzu winged demon, maybe that's what was conjured. We don't know, but is it possible? Sure. Because that is an actual specific demon in demonology that's winged and has fairly a similar description to a Mothman type creature. So is it possible? Sure. I mean, anything's possible in my mind, but if those type of things correlate to that, then there's this definite possibility something like that was done. And if you read some of the stuff from back during the Mothman wave, these people were being affected physically by something. Their eyes were burning. They had these crazy rashes, all this weird stuff. And, just do a little research, when there's a supposed demonic presence, there's pestilence, there's disease. I mean, do the math, so to speak. So I'm just trying to show people in the book that these type of things are real. They do happen. And, is it possible that was some sort of conjured demonic entity? Possibly. Do you make up your own mind? You know what I mean?
And we've had Nathaniel Gillis on the program many times. He's talked about how he believes that it's not a stretch to believe that some of these higher alien beings may actually be demons as well, that these are demons that are disguising themselves as aliens, that they do this in order to draw you in so that they're just showing you a different face. And then,
or vice versa.
Or vice
versa.
versa.
Could be aliens disguising themselves as what we think of as a demon.
Right. Right. So it's, and a lot of times, and follow me here, Dave, there's reports of, wherever you see a Bigfoot, you also see a UFO right
In the
above
same
it.
general area. Yeah, I've had
general
many interviews where that's transpired over my time doing this. Rash of Bigfoot sightings. Do a little research. Oh, wait a minute. There's a rash of strange lights in the sky in the same general area, or vice versa. So, what are these things? My humble opinion, I feel that if there was such a creature as Mothman, more than likely to me, it was some sort of alien or interdimensional being. I don't know, but I'd lean to that. I'd lean to that side of it a little more because of all the lights that were seen in the sky and everything like that during that time. But who's to say? You really can't say. You can just have your humble opinion and your experience level, but you'll never hear me say, I know for a fact, a mom creature. It's just, you can't say that because then you're just lying,
Yeah, no, and I can't say for sure either. Almost 20 years into doing this show now, and I don't have any more answers than I had then.
No, none of us do, really. If you're honest, nobody does because,
no.
I mean, all you can do is it's like a giant puzzle or it's like an onion. It has many layers. There's many different things going on, and we often, more times than not, every time, you end up with more questions than you do answers and this stuff. But to me, it's still the journey. The journey is why I do it. I'd love it, and I'd love to hear other people's experiences and because it adds validity to maybe an experience I had or another guy that I interviewed or woman, that they had a similar experience. Then you can start kind of putting these little pieces of the puzzle together and say, okay, well, this correlates, that correlates. All right, what's really going on here? Yeah. It's just fascinating to me, and I love all of it. And, it wasn't that long ago, we've talked about this before. You couldn't be a Bigfoot guy and a UFO guy or a haunting guy and a Bigfoot guy. You would be ostracized from all of them. But I'm proud to say that I was one of the first people that was openly talking about this, that all this stuff correlates and crosses over in some way, shape, or form at some point. And as an investigator, you'd be doing yourself and everybody else a disservice to say, oh, it can't be a Bigfoot and an alien. It can't be an alien and a Bigfoot or a haunting. That's bullcrap. We don't know.
Right.
So as an investigator, you have to look from the outside the box looking in, because if you don't, you're just doing everything a disservice because they are interconnected in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I've been to haunting cases where I interview the people, because normally before I go to a case, I interview the people 2 or 3 times and ask them the same questions over and over just to see if I can catch them lying to me, before I ever spend my time, my gas, and my money to go out and try to help these people, because I have been hoaxed before. People try to, oh, you're on TV, I want you to come to my house, that type of thing, and it's frustrating as all get out, but that's, it's a method I've came up with over the years to help me weed out those people,
Right.
And I would interview them, and they're saying they're having poltergeist activity, right? Stuff flying across the room and stuff. And then when I get to the house, I think, okay, this is what I'm focusing on, some sort of haunting, malevolent, negative haunting here. But then they said, well, I'm also having these dreams of these little gray guys, and I'm floating up through my ceiling into the sky. And I'm like, what? You didn't tell me that the first time. So what do we got here? Some kind of alien projection being put into these people's minds or are the aliens making stuff fly across the room and they think it's a ghost? So, you got to really, it crosses over sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. So there's a lot of different aspects you have to look at as an investigator doing this stuff. It's just not all the time ghosts, Bigfoot, or UFOs. Sometimes it's both or many different things going on.
That brings up an interesting question, and I'm going to throw this out here because it's in the beginning of the book. We have a common friend common friend. We'll just put it that way. A common friend who just recently celebrated a heavenly birthday, Rosemary Ellen Guiley, passed away quite a few years ago, and is sorely missed and very much loved. One of the things, God bless her, that Rosemary did once, we had lunch for 2 hours. We were doing an event at the Queen Mary. She filibustered me for 2 hours and tried to get me or convince me that I should really believe in fairies. This was a conversation that I was like, Rosemary, I don't think I can believe in them. To me, they're Disney characters. She was like, no, Tim, let me explain to you why you should believe in fairies. And she managed to get me to turn the corner on this deal. Mind you, this was many years ago.
Yes.
But we had a good conversation over a really good lunch.
She was a spitfire. Rosemary was. Let me tell you.
Yes, she was.
She'd scare the hell out of me when she get mad. I'd be like, I don't want nothing to do with that.
Well, this was spirited. It wasn't a mean conversation.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Yeah. She's very spirited.
Yeah, Yeah. But I guess with that, I would throw this question at you. Then, have you ever run into something in an investigation, such as fairies or something like that, where you went, my God, I don't think I could really even believe that this particular phenomena is entering into this scenario?
Yes, I have. And this, I never have talked about this since you brought up. I will talk about it on Darkness Radio. But so I don't know if you know who Barry Bear Gaunt was. He ran Octagon Hall. Okay. OG guy. Been around for 50 years doing this stuff. A real good friend of mine just died as well.
Okay.
So I went out to visit him and hang out at Octagon Hall, which, I was privy to be one of the only people ever let to stay in that place for 7 days straight, 24/7, and investigate it because of him.
Yeah. And
so he liked to take me out on the property because there's all kind of weirdness going on there too. So he goes, man, I got a weird feeling something's going to happen tonight. Let's go. We got in this truck and we drove out because there's 900 acres out there, and people have captured pictures of ghost trains and everything out on this property. It's crazy stuff. Balls of light flying across the whole 9 yards. I mean, it's got everything going on. So we're sitting in this truck, and all of a sudden we start seeing lights. I mean, a blue orb type light comes zooming through the field. I'm like, holy crap, what is this? And we're like, he's like, do you see that? I said, yeah, and then these little, what started off that looked like fireflies started coming up from the ground, and they started out the size of a firefly.
Okay.
And they got brighter and brighter until I saw, and you probably think I'm nuts, but I swear to you, I saw what I could only describe as fairy-like creatures come out of these balls of light. They had wings, they had little bodies. And I'm like, dude, what did you put in my drink, man? Because this is what I'm seeing right now. And he's laughing. He goes, I see it too. He goes, we're sniffing our drinks,
Yeah.
And it was just and the funny thing was, it wasn't the time of year. It was fall. Really? And it wasn't the time of year for fireflies at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we saw these things, and there was hundreds of them. And the grass was really tall out there in the field. It was probably 2-3 feet tall, And I'm just like, am I really seeing this right now? I don't even believe I'm on some kind of mushroom trip or something. I couldn't believe it. And we watched this stuff for like 15, 20 minutes, and then he just kind of dissipated. And I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me. I'm like, I'm never going to tell anybody this. But since you brought it up, might as well tell it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we drive back over to the hall, which is, a couple hundred yards away, and we start looking, and there's what looks like fireflies all over the ground again. And I'm looking, and I can't find the bugs. I'm like looking at the light, trying to grab where the light is, and there's nothing there.
Wow.
And they were there just for a few minutes, and they disappeared. And I was like, dude, this is trippy as all get out. But I mean, I saw the wing structure, but they were so bright and light. It was like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was really bright, but there was some kind of body and wing structure inside the light.
Really?
It was wild, man. I've got pictures of them. Maybe I'll dig them up on my old cell phone. But I didn't want to, having had so many experiences, I don't share everything because people just think you're freaking plumb nuts, man.
Yeah,
I mean, but when you go out looking for this stuff, man, sometimes you find something that you just can't explain, and it happens.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true.
And I'm on the road a lot, man. I'm out there. I'm doing it. I'm boots on the ground. I've done it with many people over many years.
Yep.
Like Rosemary, she's the one that got me. She's the one that really said, Dave, you got to put your stuff in books because you have so much. And I'm like, dude, I don't know the first thing about writing a book. And she taught me. She helped me. She mentored me, and she was an awesome lady, man.
Yes.
I was just getting to where I had only known her well for about 5 years before, 6 years before she died, and she didn't let anybody know she was that sick, but you could tell. And then all of a sudden, she, me and her, like I wrote I wrote the blurb on the last Bigfoot book she did. I don't know if she wrote anything after that, Planet Bigfoot. And
Yeah.
I was so honored that she had me write that, and then all of a sudden she's like, Dave, and me and her were working on a project together when this all went down. And she's like, Dave, I'm sorry, honey, but I just can't do anymore. I'm pretty sick. And I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong? And she said, well, I don't want to talk about it and stuff, but I don't want nobody worrying about me and being sad and stuff. And then of course you get the news a couple weeks later
Yeah.
that she's gone. I was like, wow, what the frick? She was
Yeah.
really sick. She wasn't just sick. She was really sick.
Yeah. Yeah. A friend of mine shot some of the last photos of her, and even though she looked amazing for being as sick as she was, she she really didn't let too many people know.
No,
Just
no,
how
she's a
sick
strong lady, strong lady and very spirited and
Yeah.
she's a fire plug, man. That's what I loved about her. She reminded me of my mom a lot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my mom, I lost my mom at a real young age as well. So,
Yeah.
um, you know, I'm honored to have been able to be a friend of hers and have her mentor me in some aspect,
Yeah.
because that woman, in my opinion, she's probably the most prolific paranormal author of our time. And
Oh,
she
yes.
wrote over 70 something books on
Yes.
various topics.
Yeah.
And they weren't little books. They were
No.
encyclopedia books, man.
Right.
She knew something about everything, and she was very well versed and very well read and very, she knew her stuff, man. And that's one of the people I'd say, hey, Rosemary, what's your take on this or what's your take on that? And I mean, if I didn't have the answer, that's who I could go to. Her and people like my buddy Bear, who I knew for 25 years, who just died suddenly, and he was one of my mentors too. And I met Rosemary through Weatherly and Johnny Zaffis,
Yep.
so which Johnny's one of my mentors too.
Yeah.
People don't even know before I came out publicly, I was doing stuff with Johnny. People don't know that about me because I came out of nowhere
Yep.
because I had to wait till I retired from law enforcement to go public with this stuff.
Yep.
But because they would have sent me to the head shrinker. What are you doing? What are you talking about? Investigating ghosts, and I'd already been doing it for 20 years,
Right.
but.
Right. Yeah.
But they kind of knew, but they didn't know how in depth I was. I mean, I've owned 2 haunted locations now myself, and I've got a new one now. So, but that's in my opinion, that's what you got to do to further study this stuff. Have haunted locations and get in deep. That's kind of what I'm known for. First time I was ever on Darkness Radio, we had immersed ourselves in the Wicked 46 house, man, in Wilkes Barre, and
very true.
that was a crazy case, man. I actually, I wrote a book about that too.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Wicked 46. Got an attachment. That wasn't fun.
Yeah.
That place.
With this new place now, is that the idea? You're going to immerse yourself, write a book about it, essentially?
Yep. Yeah, like I had the Willow's Weep house after the Wicked 46 house, and I did a 7.5-year project on that house and wrote a book about it. And there's another book going to be coming out about it, and most likely a movie or 2 will be coming out about it in the future. But based off of my books and stuff. But now I have a new place, and it's got a funny little name because I wanted to show people, hey, you don't have to have this grand mansion or an asylum or a giant old prison. A haunting can occur in a little shack. So I named it the Shantytown Spirit Shack because it is built in the town I live in now is a coal mine lumber town from way back. And the road that this house was built on was called Shantytown at one time. And these miners and loggers, that's all they lived in, man. They had makeshift shacks, and they were very poor, and they lived in these little shacks, and that's why I named it the Shantytown Spirit Shack. It was built on the same road where all these Shantytown was, and many people died there, lots of gruesome deaths. And the last man that owned this house was a friend of mine. He's a veteran, and he killed himself, and he shot himself in it.
Oh, my God.
And it was attached to my property, so about a month after he died, I had my front door open. I could see directly to his house and look through the window, and I see a full-bodied shadow walking through the house. A month after he's gone, he has no family. He was by himself, And I was like, oh shit, somebody broke into the house, right? So I grabbed my gun, I run over there, and I'm pounding on the door. I said, hey, cops are coming, get out of the house, come out with your hands up, and there was nobody in there, man. But I
Wow.
saw it that clear, and I was like, oh man, it was Bub. He's walking around in there. So, long story short, about 6 months into, I bought the house, and I said it's haunted because I went in there, and did some stuff and got some pretty compelling stuff. So I installed a 24/7 security camera system. Within 2 days, it alerts me when there's movement in the house. It starts alerting. I hear walking around. I hear people talking, doing the old, but you can't make out what they're saying.
Yep.
And it's people moving around in the house that aren't there. It's ghosts. And both his wives died in the house. I found out later from some of his extended family that I know. And so, yeah, so we have a new location to study the paranormal in. I'm also going to be doing a new show on YouTube for fun. It's going to be Elvira-esque,
Okay.
every Saturday night at midnight. I'm calling it Dead Time.
Okay.
It's going to be Dead Time with Dave Spinks. A lot of pre-recorded special guests sometimes, just for fun, talking about different topics in the paranormal. And every now and then I'm going to do a Dead Time live from the house.
Wow.
At Investigator.
Okay.
So just something fun to keep it, to show people the house. I'm also going to let other teams come in. I've already had a couple of teams come in and investigate it. They got some phenomenal stuff. We'll be showcasing some of that in there. And you can come and stay the night in Shantytown Spirit Shack,
Wow.
and investigate it and be part of the project, because there will be a book eventually about it and maybe a documentary as well. Because, a haunting can happen in anywhere. It doesn't have to have, you don't have to have this grand mansion or psych ward or whatever. It can happen anywhere. And that's what I'm trying to show people. Hey, it can be this little tiny house on property that all kind of stuff in the, also right in front of the house, the old railroad tracks used to run. I mean, literally 10 feet away from this house, run right through this neighborhood. And there's an old story from many of the old timers that they'd see this murdered prostitute's ghost walking the train tracks. And there's all these different little stories right here that I think add into it. And one of my relatives, there was a tannery like right where my backyard is. I live right on a river too. It's right on a river. So you got all that going on. But there's a tannery there, and it had a giant smokestack, a brick smokestack, and one of my relatives fell off of that and died.
Really?
So yeah, so there's all kind of little death stories that can, we all talk about that, what leads to a haunting, what causes a haunting. And so, got a lot of cool stuff coming in the future with this place.
So, Dave, I got to ask you real quick then. You're near a river. You've got railroad tracks going there. You got a major electrical source there. Do you think your whole property there is rife for a haunting then?
Yes, I do. And I didn't know that when I literally bought this house because my kids, I got a divorce years ago, and my kids were going to school right here. So I wanted to be close to the school. So I ended up buying this house for dirt cheap, man, and remodeled it. I'm still remodeling it. But I wanted to be right here until they get out of school. My son's already out of school. He's in college now. And now my daughter, I'm just raising, being part of her life. And then once she gets old enough, I'm going to keep this for a B&B and the haunted place for people to come and investigate. And I'll be investigating there. But the cool thing is I'm now working with Christopher Garantano. I'm part of his company, White Phosphorus Pictures. Do you know who he is? He did Strange World and Dark Files and the Montauk movie. So me and him are working very closely together now. A lot of cool projects coming up with him, and I'm super stoked for that. I'll be able to showcase a lot of stuff I've been waiting to showcase of my stuff through him, with him. It's all, he's got a new movie coming out that I'm a part of called A Haunting We Will Go, and it's going to be, I'm so excited for folks to see this. It takes us back to our early days as kids, how we all loved Halloween, and it covers so many different things. And it's a 2-hour full feature movie, and it'll be released it's going to, there'll be some movie theater releases. It's going to be worldwide, 25 streamers at least, and on Discovery UK, Canada, and Italy. I mean, it's going to be worldwide. It's going to be something really special. And this guy is a master filmmaker. Let me tell you, he is good. And he's just like us. He's an investigator, but his primary thing is he's a filmmaker. And he invests, the guy does phenomenal research on his stuff. He goes deep. and he's blown me away. And he asked me to be a part of this Haunting We Will Go. It's his project, and I'm honored to be a part of it. And after I've worked with him and we became fast friends, man, it's like we grew up together or something. It's bizarre. But I've been waiting for this opportunity. I turned down some shows, got screwed over on some situations with Hollywood. Hollywood's dying. The ghost shows are going bye-bye. This is going to be something far much, real and better than we've ever seen out there, and I'm honored to be a part of it. And I'm going to be working on numerous projects with him. So, this guy's got a lot of great stuff. We're already going into film in November for the next couple of projects. So, what he's doing is going to be phenomenal.
Right on.
He was actually screwed over in Hollywood too. There's a long story behind that, but I'll let him tell his story. But he does not like those people, man.
I bet.
And he calls himself a how does he word it? A guerrilla filmmaker. So
that's a good way to be, though.
Very good at what he does. Yeah. And he shows the real stuff and the human side of things, which I love.
Yeah.
And that's these ghost shows on TV. I've been, like I said, I've been a part of them. They screw things up. They over dramatize stuff. They try to make it scarier when it doesn't need to be scary. It was scary enough when you live through it. I mean, and he's going to, it's the real deal. So I'm super excited to be working with him. And I've worked with a lot of charlatans over the years, and, a lot of users and abusers and coattail riders and haters, and all of it. But, hey, man, I'm just here doing my thing. I don't care what anybody else is doing. Right I'm doing what I do and how I do it.
Right on. All right. Before we go today, I want to tell people about the fact that you've now taken some of your paranormal poetry, you've taken and put it to music. And this music isn't just, a lot of people say, oh, yeah, I've got music out there. And then you listen to it and you go, oh, God, yeah, you've got music out there.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of people go, oh, no, but I've got music that, involves the paranormal. And then you listen to it and you go, oh, God, yeah, you've got music that involves the paranormal. And then you kind of shirk at it. I took a listen to this stuff, folks, and it is really good.
I'm glad you like it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it never started, the poetry never started as to be released to the public. It was something I was doing for myself, kind of like a self-healing journey. And I just wanted to try my hand at it. And some of it is about me, my experiences. Some of it's just made up stuff, about various supernatural, cryptid, whatever, and it turned into this 3.5 year project, because I started writing the first ones, and then I let Jen read them. She's like, Dave, these are really good. You need to do this. And then I'm like, I don't know. Some of this stuff's pretty personal. And she's like, no, and you need to put it out. So I let some other people read it just to see what their take was, and they really enjoyed it. So I said, well, all right, I'll do one and see, and go ahead and put it out there. So what it turned into was 3 volumes of paranormal poems. I call it Paranormal Poems and Ominous Odes by Dave Spinks. So then as I was writing I've always been very musical. I mean, I grew up on heavy metal, and that's my thing, It was kind of an escape, just like some of this horror, I love horror movies and stuff. And true crime, because I was in law enforcement, and there's some songs in there about serial killer, and there's a whole thing going on with all this. It just did its own thing. It took its own life. But so I wrote the first volume. And actually in the first book, in the first CD, there's a real paranormal thing that happened while I was creating the music with Bear when he died. Really? So it's really crazy, man. Do you want me to tell you about that story real quick?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
All right. So I finished the first paranormal poem book on a Friday. Bear died on Monday, the following Monday. And I had plans to write a poem on the volume 2 about Octagon Hall and him anyway. And when that happened, I was very distraught, of course, and upset. I've known this guy for 25 years. And I was like, man, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it right now and put it in the first volume for him. I'm going to dedicate this book to him. So that's what I did. So I sat down that day, the day he died, I wrote this poem about Octagon Hall and his contribution to Octagon Hall as being an OG in the paranormal. And, he spent a lot of his life there taking care of that place, keeping it going, and for many paranormal investigators to enjoy, and it's a great, phenomenal location. So as I wrote the poem, and then Jen's sitting right next to me, and I'm done with that, and I'm working on the music now. I said I got the poem done, and when you work with AI, you have to physically type in the lyrics. So I took my poem and I put them in there. I put it in there, and then you got to make a chorus and do it musically, right?
Hmm.
So I did all that, and I'm going through samples of music, and I'm adding how I want it to sound and everything. And it's a process. And then with me, I took it even a step farther. I got with my musician friends. And then I said, hey, this part's a little light. Can we add in some hi-hat and some more bass right here, or whatever the case, right?
Right.
So I got done. I found the version I want. I said, this is it, man. This is awesome. So I'm telling Jen, I said, you ready to hear it? And she's like, yeah. And she was on her computer working on stuff and talking to our friends about losing Bear. And then she just goes, oh my God, like that. And I'm like, what? And she scared the living hell out of me. And she goes, Bear just came into the room, but he looked really young, and he had dark curly hair, and he had a Tom Selleck mustache, and he had a white shirt on and dark pants. And he put his hand on your shoulder and he said, I'm proud of you, brother. I'm saying, you're shitting me. I'm like, stop, you don't. And she goes, no, I swear to God, I just saw that. I'm freaking out, and I'm like, what the hell? And we talked about that for a few minutes. I said, you're screwing with me? She goes, no, I'm serious. And she described it to a T, right? So I said, you ready to hear the song now? And she said, yeah. So I said, all right. And I started playing the song. Of course, we start crying because it's pretty, our buddy just died.
Yeah.
And we get done, and I think the song's over, right? And then a pause goes by, and you hear this like that. And I'm like, did you hear that? And then you hear all of a sudden this whole sentence of garbly-goops comes through. I didn't type none of this. You have to type it in for it to do it,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then you hear, ha 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 ha. And I kid you not, Tim, it's his laugh to a T. It was him. And
Wow.
I'm getting cold bumps again because I freaked out. I almost fell out of my chair. I'm like, that was freaking Bear. Oh my God. Right after she said that. And even if I would have typed in laugh, it would have sung laugh like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
have, you can't, it doesn't just laugh. It would have sang the word laugh.
Right.
Right. So I'm like, this is crazy. I'm freaking out. I said, that was Bear. And of course, we listened to it 20 times. I'm like, I got to call Twana, his wife. I got to call her. I got to call her. Now I'm like, no, it's too soon. He just died this morning. I'm like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I'm pacing at this point. And she's like, screw it. She'll understand. Just call her and let her know what happened. So I said, okay. So I called her, explained the whole story to her. She said, I want to hear it right now. And I said, are you sure? Is it not too soon? She goes, no, I want to hear it right now. So I played it for her over the phone. It was her, one of our good friends, and her son, their son. Played it, and they're like, oh my God, that's definitely Bear. No doubt about it. It's him. So I'm like, all right, honey, we'll be there tomorrow because I had to go speak at his funeral. And so we get there the next day at 9 o'clock at night, so like an 8 hour drive over there from where I live. And it's her, their son, another one of our good friends, and Beth, his adopted daughter, our friend, a good friend of ours.
Hmm.
So I'm like, do you guys want to hear the song right now? And they were going through pictures for the slideshow, and Tawana's handing me stacks of pictures and say, if you see one you like, let me know and we'll put it in there. So I'm going through these pictures, and I stop and I go, oh my God. And I said, babe, take a look at this. And I hand her this picture. It's exactly as she described Bear. Curly brown hair, Tom Selleck mustache, white shirt, black pants.
Really?
She's like, yeah, I told you. See, that's what he looked like. And mind you, we'd never seen these pictures before. These were his wedding pictures with Tawana.
Oh, wow.
And they were pulling them out of these boxes, going through them. And I was like, oh my God, this is insane. This is insane. And I said, this just goes to show you that a spirit can manipulate electronic devices. I mean, I was on an AI program creating this for my friend, and he came through and let us know he was okay, and he laughed.
Wow.
And we played it again for him. And, of course, live, it's even better. So then we took it a step farther. We did the funeral and everything. And Friday was the day. His funeral was on Thursday. So the next day we had food and all that for everybody. And then there was about 25, 30 of us, closer friends. Said, we're going to go over to the hall and we're going to smoke one of his favorite cigars and have a shot of his favorite liquor to celebrate his life, and ended on that.
Hmm.
And that's when I decided, I said, I'm going to play that for everybody in the room. And I did. And There wasn't a dry eye in the house, and every one of them said, "Oh my God, that was Bear's laugh without a doubt." So that story's all in the first poetry book. The book's dedicated to him, and you have a song on the Origin albums called Octagon Hall. That is that, and I left it in there so everybody can hear the laugh. So it tells a story. So the poetry series, it's the poetry, the poems are all mixed up, and the albums are all mixed up. So if you want the lyrics and the poems, you have to buy all 3 volumes to hear all the lyrics for all. And right now there's 6 CDs. I got 3 out, 3 more being made right now. The music's all done. And I gave you a small sample of some of those to play.
Yeah, let's play a couple of them here. The first one.
And the band's name, by the way, is Ghost in the Machine. Get it? So.
And that's the first the first cut we have to play is Ghost in the Machine.
Yeah, and that's the title track for the Origins album.
All right, so let's play a sample of Ghost in the Machine. Here it is right now. So I got to ask you, Dave. Now you said okay, so your influence. Obviously, it's rock or metal. Who are your influences? I got to know growing up who your influences.
Kiss.
Okay.
Kiss was the first album I ever got. I was 10 years old, and it was Kiss Alive.
Okay.
And I grew up on Kiss, and then of course morphed into Van Halen, Ted Nugent, everybody else all those years. I mean, I just love that music. It was a special time, and it was an escapism for me. For various reasons. But yeah, my mom actually bought me that album. My mom was a big music person. She loved the Beatles and all kinds of music. I don't just like, I mean, I like country and I like folk music and everything else. But I mean, that's what I grew up on was Kiss and Iron Maiden and, all the metal groups from the 80s. I mean, Ted Nugent and so many more. I mean, tons of them. But yeah, that's what inspired me. And I never started out to do it like that. It just kind of happened because when I was writing the poems, I'd be humming a music. I realized I'm humming a music tune in my head because, a poem is essentially a song too. I mean, it's the same thing. You're writing lyrics basically. And then some of them have to do with me, some of them, and they're all paranormal related, every single one. They're either metaphysical, supernatural, paranormal, cryptid related, or UFO related. Right. So, and some of the albums have themes like that. So Creepy Cryptids, obviously every song on that album is either Mothman, Flatwoods Monster, Goatman, so I kind of themed the albums out. I thought it would be fun, something new and fun. And I figured the paranormal community as a whole would love this because there's nothing else like it out there. The Haunted CD, it's all haunting songs. Some are folklore songs from West Virginia about Screaming Jenny or the Greenbrier Ghost. I mean, these are all poems that I wrote that I turned into musical lyrics and created. It's part AI and part real music from my friend Gerald Vance that we worked with. And then there's the next one that's coming out is Legends. So you'll have all these legend songs, about various legends in the paranormal world. Then you'll have one that's called Monsters. That's all about what we love as kids: Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, the Mummy. I did a whole album just on that called Monsters. Godzilla, all that fun stuff. And then the other one that'll be out is Music from the Grave, and it's kind of like a hodgepodge of everything. So, and Origins is like that too. It has a little bit of everything on it, the first one. So it's been a lot of fun, man. I mean, I started off to do that for myself just as something fun, and it morphed into what it is now. And I hope people like it. I mean, the people that do have it already are raving about it. They love it. They said it's freaking phenomenal, and there's nothing else that they've ever heard like it. And so it's really been a pleasure. And some of the CDs have 20 songs, so you're getting a lot of music for and like I said, it was a 3.5-year project.
Yeah.
And eventually, soon, probably within 6 months or the first year, I'm going to have it available for digital download too.
Oh, very
But
cool.
right now it's just on hard CDs, and I'll have it at my conferences. I will be speaking at Mothman this year. This month I'm speaking at Kecksburg UFO Festival, and then right after that, Gettysburg, and then the Bigfoot Camping and Adventure up in Pennsylvania again, and Mothman, and then I put on the Flatwoods Monster Conference now. I revived that. We're going to our 3rd year. It's doing really well.
Okay.
And we're having Frank Fascino, who is the master man, speaking there this year. I mean, he's got all the goods on the Flatwoods Monster, so he's our keynote speaker. And, it's part of West Virginia folklore and history. We've got to keep it alive.
Yeah, absolutely. We got another one here for us to sample. This would be off the Haunted CD. This is the title track, right? Haunted?
Yep, and this song's about if someone maybe has got an attachment, being haunted. That's what it's all about.
All right, let's take a listen.
Very surreal, makes you feel insane. Strange apparitions dance in your dreams. Lost in madness, nothing's as it seems. Every corner eyes are closely stare. Waking up frightened when I see them there. Yeah, I'm haunted in the night, haunted in the day. Spirits won't leave, getting in my way. It's a terrible thing, can't find any peace. I'm searching for relief, but it never seems to cease. Yeah, haunted in the night, haunted in the day. Drifting through the darkness, I just want it to fade away. The apparitions linger on like a never-ending song. Every note I
Catchy. Yeah, telling you.
You like it?
I love it. Love it. Yeah, it's very catchy, and it's that one is particularly timeless. So
Yeah. Yep.
most definitely. Let's play one more before we head out today. This is also, I believe, the title track from Creepy Cryptids, right?
Creepy cryptids, yep, and it covers the big cryptids, as we say, Bigfoot, Goatman, and some of the bigger ones, and it's got a little bit of all of them in there.
Okay, let's take a listen. Here it is, Creepy Cryptids.
In the shadows of the forest where the creatures creep, Bigfoot's lurking, you better not make a peep. He's a ghost in the wild, a legend of yore, with footprints in the mud, leaves us wanting more. Oh yeah, yeah. On a lonely road, hear the howl in the night. Dark man running fast, I feel some sight. Eyes glowing bright, it's a fear that won't fade. Haunting your dreams, you'll never escape. Creeping cryptids stuck in the lands, hiding in the shadows, the mystery expands. Stories of monsters and legend they soar, horrifying tales that we can't ignore. At Goatman's Bridge, it's a crossing of dread. Echoes of the past that haunt the living in the beds.
I love that it's driving, right? There's no ballads here, is there?
Yeah, it hits you, man. It hits you right in the mouth.
It does. It's right in the mouth. I haven't heard a ballad yet. Is there any ballads?
Yes, there is.
There is.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Greenbrier Ghost, and there's several of them
Okay.
that will be coming out. And there's, I did one about Fox Hollow Farms, the Herb Baumeister serial
Oh,
killer.
okay.
That's a pretty tear-jerking song, and
Is it?
it's, I did that for the victims, and it's pretty heavy. And there's one called Forever Friends about kids that have been killed and they never find their bodies, that type of thing.
Oh my gosh.
So there, it covers a whole broad spectrum of paranormal. And in the Forever Friends one, the kid's best friend, he's seeing his friend come to him in his dreams and at his grave, saying, he wants someone to find his body so he can go rest in peace. So,
Okay.
and there's like, there's something for everybody in this music. It's not just, there's a couple of songs that are the folk type music, the whole Celtic vibe and the piratey stuff.
Hmm.
And that's about Devil's Triangle, and I cover a huge spectrum of topics in the paranormal in this poetry series and the music.
Very
So
nice.
it was something fun and different, and
Yeah.
you can't be serious in this stuff all the time. You have to have some fun with it. And for me, people kept asking me, "When's your next book coming out? When is this?" And my last book that came out before all this was the Dogman, West Virginia Dogman book.
Yes. Yep.
And I needed to take a break for a while, and I was doing this for my own personal health and everything, just writing, having fun with it. And then it turned into something that I never intended it to. It was, I've been working on my second volume of West Virginia Hauntings and volume 2 and 3 for that. So that's about to come out later, but we got 3 poetry books coming out, and something totally different from me. I'm the guy that did the Cryptid cookbook, and it sells like hotcakes,
Yep.
Cooking with Cryptids by Dave Spinks,
Yep.
and I love to do other things too, and this is just something that I could relate to the paranormal and had a lot of fun with it. And I want to share it with everybody because people are seemingly really enjoying it. And I want to share that with folks.
Absolutely. And so they can get the CDs right now on your website.
Yep. On my website, they're $20, but I think I'm going to drop them to 15 because people don't realize how expensive it is to actually cut a CD. My
Sure.
God, it's
Yeah.
outrageous.
Absolutely.
But to have it done right and mastered and everything, there's a lot of money involved. But
Well,
the first poetry book will be releasing within the next week or two, and then they're going to follow suit. They're being edited and done graphically right now. They're all done. It's just it takes a little bit longer to have all that process done. But the music, it once I got all the music done for the first 3 CDs, that flowed really quick. It happened much quicker than I thought. So once we got them mastered and everything, it was just a matter of picking who I wanted to make the CDs and turning it into a physical CD.
okay. And we'll have a link to that on the link in the description of this program as well. One last question here for you before we leave everybody today, Dave. In the book, you got a hold of John Keel's notes.
Yes.
for the Mothman case. My question to you is, how did you run across them? And again, what the decision to publish them in the book? How did you come to that decision to put them in the book?
Well, it was really bizarre. So, I'm at Mothman Festival every year. I mean, and I speak there when they pick me. We kind of rotate there every couple, 3, 4 years. But we were hanging out after the festival one night, and they have this little joint there that you can go in and have some drinks and play machines,
Mm-hmm.
And the lady that worked there, she knew who I was, and she came in. She's like, "Hey, Dave," she goes, "I got something you might be interested in." I'm like, "What's that?" And she's like, "Well, my ex-husband, his family was real good friends with John Keel." I was like, "What? That's cool," And I said, "Tell me more." She goes, "Well, we got a divorce and everything years ago, like 20 years ago, and I got an original copy of John Keel's typed notes. Would you like to have them?" I'm like, yeah." So the only other place that those notes are found is in the Mothman Museum.
Wow.
Jeff's got the original copy, and I've got the other copy. So, I think those, it was a great opportunity to share, Keel's writing. And you've seen them, and they're in the book, man.
Yeah.
And that was just like one of those fluke crazy things that happened, and yeah, she gave them over to me. She goes, "I don't got no use for them. I figure a guy like you would love to have them." I'm like, "Yeah, you're absolutely right." And I thought about it. I said, well, I should just publish those in the book so people can see them, and it just adds to the whole craziness of the Mothman, and there's a piece of history there too.
Well, it gives you a great look into the mind of Keel and what he was thinking when he was investigating the phenomenon, and yeah, it gives you.
That's one guy I never got to meet that I always wanted to meet, and the first Mothman festival that he was at, I was actually there, and I saw him come out in his famous white suit and everything, and there were so many people around him. I was like, I'm not going to bother him, but it was cool seeing him there, and I think that was at the second or third Mothman festival that was ever put on by Jeff and them. So, but yeah, it was cool. I got to see the guy, and I got a little piece of his history in my book. So it's pretty cool.
It's very cool. Very cool indeed. Beyond Mothman is the name of the book, and I highly encourage you to go get it. We have a link in the description of this program. We want you to, by all means, pick up this book and not only just get the scope of what's going on there in Point Pleasant, but everything that Dave has been through with both David Weatherly and with Jenny as well. There's some cases in here that I think are not only going to curl your hair, but will be some great reading and will give you some perspective as to what's going on in that area of the country. And I also encourage you to go get the CDs. This music is phenomenal, folks. You're going to want to take a listen and get an idea of the scope of the talent here that Dave is putting on display. So,
well, I'm glad you like it. And like I said, it was something fun that I just wanted to share with everyone. And I hope it's received well. It's something different coming from Dave Spinks' World of Weird, man.
Yeah. So, absolutely. It's good stuff, Dave. Absolutely. So I want to thank you so much, my friend, for being with us here on Darkness Radio again.
Always a pleasure, Tim. Anytime, man. Always a pleasure talking with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A couple of notes here before we leave you today, folks. One, if you're listening to this program, you're not watching the program on YouTube, it's real simple. Either go to the original Darkness Radio on YouTube and like and subscribe after you've watched this video, or go to darknessradioshow.com, click on the show that you want to watch, and you'll see the video above the audio. Just click on the show and watch it, and then like and subscribe afterwards. To the Darkness Radio Apple app is up and available right now. If you don't have it on your device, by all means, download it and use it. Or if you have it on your phone, it's available to upgrade right now. Do that as well. 3, go to the events page on darknessradioshow.com. We got a couple of events right now that we want you to check out. First one is the Potographs for Pooches event, August 1st and 2nd. At the Palmer House Hotel. It's myself, Tim and Lauren Miley, and Scotty Rorick. We're raising money for the animal shelter in St. Cloud. It's a pet project of mine, and we want to raise money for those animals there. Make sure you come out, get your tickets. They're going quick. They'll be gone here relatively shortly, and the rooms as well at the Palmer House Hotel. It makes a great gift for somebody this summer. Make sure you go get those tickets right away. Those are going to go quickly. Second, Dacre Stoker is taking people to Romania in October. Imagine Halloween at Dracula's castle. There's a special code right now, $100 off for Darkness Radio listeners. Go to Darkness Radio events or darknessradioshow.com in the events tab. You can spread it over 10 payments. So imagine Halloween at Dracula's castle with Dacre Stoker, the great-grandson of Dracula, or the author of Dracula himself, Bram Stoker. So again, I'm going to just emphasize this. Go to darknessradioshow.com, the events tab. Click on that link. It'll take you to Mysterious Universe Tours, and you can check that out there for yourself. I think that's going to do it for this week. I just want to remind you guys that we're upon the weekend. It's a summer weekend. It's going to be a great weekend, a wonderful weekend to get out and enjoy things. But I want to remind you to take someone who is disabled or maybe even elderly who can't get out of the house with you. If you're going to go out on the lake and enjoy, go to the beach and enjoy, or maybe even just get out of the house and enjoy, bring somebody with you who is disabled or elderly who maybe can't get out of the house and enjoy. Take them out on a picnic with you. Take somebody who is maybe can't get out of the house and enjoy with you, and help them experience life. Be a light in someone's darkness this weekend. Just a little favor from your buddies here at Darkness Radio. We ask you and encourage you to do that. All right, we're out of here for the weekend. But before we go, we got one last gift for you from our buddy Dave Spinks. This is a brand new Darkness Radio theme. Here it is. Have a great weekend, everybody. For Mally Fox, for Jessica Freeberg, for Beer City Bruiser, I'm Tim Dennis. Enjoy this brand new theme from Dave Spinks. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you later, and we'll see you next week for the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio.
Whispers in the silence, shadows in the night. Tim Dennis leads the way, revealing hidden sights. Tune into the unknown, where fears take flight. In the realm of Darkness Radio, we embrace the fright. Through the speakers, voices echo, haunting tales unfold. Monsters lurking just beneath the stories boldly told. Sharing stories and ancient secrets, guiding us through the mist. With every chilling story, there's a truth we can't resist. Ghosts of the past, they come alive in sound. From UFOs to hauntings, ancient legends, and mysteries all around. In the darkness we dive deeper. Tim Dennis the host, sharing stories of the creepy. Supernatural and adventure. In shadows we thrive. On Darkness Radio, we're alive. Aliens in the ether, secrets in the stars. With every pulse of energy, they're never that far. Tim's voice, the beacon, cutting through the haze. Experts, experiencers in a supernatural craze. Chasing unknown entities that dwell beyond the veil. Through dimensions unseen, we follow their trail. Eerie vibrations, the air thick with dread. In the heart of the dark where the stories are fed. An expedition into terror where shadows scream. We're bound for the unknown, exploring the dream. In the darkness we dive deeper. Tim Dennis the host, sharing stories of the creepy. Supernatural adventure. In shadows we thrive. On Darkness Radio, we're alive. Feel the chill in your bones as the tales start to twist. Reality bends in a paradoxical mist. Demonic whispers and echoes of pain. In the silence we hear them call out our name. Tim's revelations, they pierce through our core. Fears left unspoken, a spectral uproar. The clock strikes midnight and the air turns cold. Every secret shared, a new adventure unfolds. From the graveyard shadows to haunted old halls, Tim's voice captures it all as the darkness enthralls. Every tale told, a hidden truth to be found. In the darkest of realms where mysteries abound. So tune into the whispers, let your fears ignite. In the shadows of the night, we find our light. With Tim guiding our way through the realm of despair, we'll dance with the darkness beyond the nightmare.